Greetings, everyone. Welcome in. Hope you all are enjoying your holidays and your festive dinners. But this is Duke and Kashama coming to you live for our health education live streams. Welcome in. For those who don't know, this is BMX National. And today, I just want to go over a couple of our family feedback options from last week. Hey, Bogani, see you in the comments. Salutations to you too, my brother. From last time we came together, we were talking about self-determination in the Black community. It was a really rich and lively discussion. Some comments include from Inshira Saran. She just said, "Tell him." Mm-hmm. We also had commentary from Melvin Nesbitt. Said, "Great show, thank you." Going forward, we also had commentaries from Michael Mashar, who also said, "Thanks, brothers, and thank you for continuing to watch and share." That is the most important thing as well when it comes to these particular live streams. Hey, I see you as well, Holmes. But as always, we will be opening the link at some point for individuals to join in for this particular discussion. So make sure that if you want to join in, make sure that you have your backgrounds ready and, have your mic and everything set up, because we would love to talk to you in dialogue about today's topic, which has been something that has been very important to discuss in our community for quite some time. I don't know if Kashama had something to say before we go to current events.
Well, first of all, Hotep, Brother Deshaun Farad, Black Power. Please remember, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're on Facebook and YouTube, family.
Absolutely. So with that, Adam, if you could roll clip, please. Wow. So I don't know about you, but I'm like COVID out. But ironically, when we chose this particular topic, and a reason for that going forward, when we chose this topic, the news about the vaccines increasing the risk of HIV wasn't even known to us yet. But this happened to showcase about that. But you said that you remember hearing some things in the beginning about the unique strand of COVID. If you could just repeat that, Kashama.
Well, I mean, I remember hearing in the beginning about the structure of the virus that they were saying is similar to HIV.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is one of the reasons why vaccine makers are using this dead virus strain of HIV,
Wow.
which was once used, I believe, in the 90s, or I believe it was in the mid 90s. They were using this strain of it was a dead HIV strain that they were using to try to create a vaccine or a cure for HIV.
Mm-hmm.
It was found that that particular strain, when put into a vaccine, increased people's chances of contracting HIV. So that same, dead virus strain is what some pharmaceutical companies are using to, create a COVID vaccine.
Understood. So it's interesting to me that we are talking about individuals who are dying in large numbers. But before I continue, Balgani said that they heard that the next pandemic will be a combination of COVID and HIV, which, if you're looking at the Black community specifically, we've never escaped the first pandemic of HIV. We we are looking at really bad transmission rates in various subsets of our communities, and they keep going. The transmission rates keep going up. Ironically, there has been some subsets of our community, particularly Black women, I'm aware of, who've been able to reduce their transmission rates. But that is also like a boomerang effect, because some years it's down, other years it's up. I'm not aware of this current litmus at this particular moment, but HIV in the Black community is just a pandemic that we have not been able to escape. So to say that it's the next one is something that is the reason why we're having this discussion now. With that going forward, we know that COVID is something that attacks the respiratory values of people's bodies. We know that it affects just general immune system, your general immune system, your ability to fight off diseases, which is very, very similar to the symptoms and the causes of HIV. So it's something for us to have in consideration. Today's topic is the U equals U. Which is reducing HIV related stigma in the Black community. The title of the U in U equals U is because, ironically, for quite some time, at least in medical facilities, they have happened to know something about HIV that has never been promoted broad scale to the Black community. And we'll get into some of those things. But if anyone in the comments, I'm just curious, if anyone in the comments before we mention it, does anyone know what the U in U equals U stand for? U equals U. Have y'all heard of that term before when it comes to the HIV related pandemic? And as we wait for people to answer that, just a simple yes or no. And if you know it, you can put it in the comment section. But as we think about that going forward, HIV is something in the Black community that is directly tied to white supremacy in our particular community, as far as our ability to fight and resolve this particular pandemic. Still waiting to see if anyone's. So it seems like no.
Eugenics, no.
Yeah. So it seems like
Donatello
no.
Bogatti said no. Well, if you know Donatello, tell us.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, Donatello.
No, Donatello said they don't know.
Oh, okay.
Tom said heard of it, but don't know what it means. Heard of it, but don't know what it means. So this is important. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to talk the entire time, but U equals U stands for undetectable. Undetectable means untransmittable. I'll repeat that. U equals U stands for undetectable means untransmittable. What this stands for is that if someone happens to be HIV positive, however, they are taking care of themselves using their medicine consistently in order to lower their viral load of the particular viral load of the particular virus. When individuals go in to test their viral load, if it is so low that it does not show up in their testing, that means that that individual is unable to transmit the virus sexually to another individual because the viral load is so low. That's what U equals U stands for. Now, this is something that the medical community has known, I think, at this point for at least a decade, but it hasn't started being promoted to Black communities from my understanding until about 3 years ago. So this is something that I think could have really, really, really helped a lot of individuals and saved a lot of individuals, not just individuals who happen to be HIV positive as far as like their sexual health, but also in how we receive and deal with our particular community, especially because I said a couple of live streams ago that I had been rewatching and binge watching Girlfriends, in the way that our community has never had a full discourse on HIV and how it is transmitted. It was reflected in shows like Girlfriends. Like, individuals were afraid to use the knives of someone who had recently just been cut with that knife using HIV. And it was like, even if they washed it, it's like, no, you got to throw the knife away. It was things like that our community was just unaware of when it came to this particular virus. Deshaun said that we need to speak with Dr. Aleem Muhammad. I'm not familiar with this individual. Kashama, do you know him?
Yeah, no, me neither. And if I hadn't thrown my phone over to the other side of the room, I would have. I could look him up real quick. But back to what you were saying, though, I wanted to get back to the fact that you were saying that the U equals U formula or concept, that it had been well known within, or well promoted, I'll say, within the white community, but only came to the surface about in the last 3 or 4 years among Black people, or was actually promoted to Black people. I think what's interesting to know, you would ask why, and yeah, of course, good things are usually kept from us, but why all of a sudden is it now being promoted to us is the question. So with that being said, there is a lot, going on with biomedical intervention. And when I say biomedical intervention, I'm talking about medication. What I'm saying is much more available, to the public due to certain subsidizing and certain, grants and money flowing from the government to organizations that can get people, hooked up with treatment as well as medications known as PrEP.
Hmm.
So, when we ask, well, why is this being promoted to us all of a sudden? We got to kind of look at the backdrop of the whole HIV prevention and harm reduction field. And I think you were going to give us a background in that as well, dude, weren't you?
Yes, so I saw a comment section, comment that asks who is the founder of U equals U, and so I wanted to answer that briefly. That is accredited to a man by the name of Bruce Rickman. Meet the man behind U equals U. If you just type in Bruce Rickman, that is Rich, or Richmond, I'm sorry, Richmond, you'll find him in the multiple articles on him actually about how he is the founder of U equals U. And yes, it has been scientifically proven. This has been known again for decades. Responding to Donatello, at least a decade. I'm sorry, it's been known for at least a decade. It's just something that they actually say that they did not promote it because they were unsure if it was absolutely true for quite a while. But after multiple years of studying and showing that it is impossible to transmit the virus once you are undetectable, the messaging became even more clear.
Bangani
So.
brings something up very important that needs to be
Mhm.
highlighted. Bangani says, although being undetectable is a desired goal with HIV, it doesn't mean that the individual can't get another strain or mutation.
Correct. And this is something that we'll definitely be going over in our particular discussion today. And what Bongani is actually referring to is especially for individuals who believe that if they are HIV positive, they're in a relationship with another HIV positive person, then they don't need to use condoms or use any type of protection because they're both HIV positive, which shows that that is absolutely not true because there's multiple strains of HIV. And if you happen to get a resistant version of HIV, as far as the viral suppression drugs, then you can complicate your health even further. So this is something to definitely take into consideration. And the other thing is that once you become undetectable, you still have to take your meds in order to keep the undetectable status. Because the moment you stop taking your meds, then the virus is again able to replicate itself and therefore make you detectable again.
That's one of
Um,
the main reasons that Black Men's Exchange has always placed a strong emphasis on behavioral health and
mhm.
self-conceptual health. The ability to value oneself enough to do what's in one's best interest, because you can have all of this biomedical innovations in the world, but if we aren't valuing ourselves enough to say I'm worth saving or I'm worth preserving, then what we're talking about is not going to do any good. None of it is going to do any good.
Yeah. I mean, so what you bring up is important in the sense that it is impossible. We say this all the time, like uh, to health funders anyway, that if we can't convince an individual to use a condom in the moment of heated fantasy or uh, having any type of sexual engagement, then how am I supposed to convince individuals with this quote unquote miracle drug, prep miracle drug, to take a pill every single day in order to prevent them from having to take a pill every single day if they were to contract the virus? So it's definitely something to take in consideration when we talk about our personal mental fortitude to take care of our health, which is again a real powerful tie back to our previous live stream around self-determination. But what's important, I
Monroe
think,
Holmes, I'm sorry,
now.
this has to be addressed. Nadrol Holmes says, "Oh, it's a white guy. This is sus since it's clearly being marketed to Black folks." And I completely agree with you in your skepticism when it comes to white people and them pushing things onto Black people. However, U equals, I didn't even
Yeah,
know
it
who this
wasn't
person was
marketed.
until Duke mentioned that. But no, what I was going to say is that U equals U in regards to the catchphrase, I believe is what you're saying. He's credited with creating the scientific concept is not something that is to be credited with him. So we're just exploring that concept, and this is just something this like a mnemonic device to help you remember, what it stands for. But we're not putting this guy up or endorsing anything that is being marketed to Black people, so to speak. We're talking about options. And I think that's very important for us to understand our options in keeping ourselves safe.
So we're going to bring this up later, but actually, Adam, if you could put up the Black Men Have Options campaign. It says, Black men, are you prepared to not get HIV? You have options, learn what they are, join other HIV negative, sexually active Black men who choose to live without fear and without knowledge and behavior that reduces risk. I think the important question here is also, why is this specifically marketed towards Black men? Uh, and I'm prepared to go in some numbers for that, but Kashama, did you have a thought?
Now, just go into the numbers. Nadrol Holmes says, I'm clear on the concept, but the marketing makes me uneasy. Yes, options are important. So understand what we just showed is not you equals you marketing. What we just showed is a Black Men's Have Options campaign. And we're
Mm-hmm.
exploring the idea of you equals you as far as the concept. So yeah, let's just stay clear on the concept and not so much focus on the marketing, because we're not the ones doing the marketing. And we've already made it clear that, when white people are controlling the narrative, things go wrong. things are not they don't flow the way we need them to flow as Black people. So that's why we're here controlling that narrative.
Yeah. So when it comes to the HIV epidemic, it has been widely uh, known for quite some time that it is largely Black men, Black and brown men. They also included Hispanic men in these particular numbers now, but Black men in our community of various sexual behaviors, mostly, however, definitely including same gender loving to LGBTQ identified Black individuals, having to be the most popular numbers of individuals who are HIV positive. And so the Black Men Have Options campaign was a promotion in order to show that individuals who are Black and HIV negative do exist, Black men particularly, and they do not have to live in these fear concepts. Because when we look at things like the CDC and the Center for Disease Control, which has predicted, and I'm trying to look for the exact year, but there's an estimate. They had put out an estimate. It was this big article that by a certain point in time, I think about 6 years from now, it's estimated that 50% of Black LGBTQ identified, and this is an estimate, Black men, 50%, one in two, would be HIV positive if they did not curve the transmission rates in those communities. What were you mentioning, Sean?
No, I was gonna say, I think that projection was supposed to be a little bit more long term, but
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, Bungani. Before we make that statistical analysis, let's talk about the source of information. Um, not
Absolutely.
yeah, right, and let's not only just talk about the source of information, but let's talk about who stands to gain or profit off of those margins, and understand that that's not a prediction. That's
Mm-hmm.
a trajectory that's being given to us, a narrative that's being given to us based off of what someone's analysis of our circumstances are currently. But
Yeah. Well, let's look at the history of it right now. So we're in the HIV epidemic, which has been around for is going on 40 years now, really. And we've known individuals who've been doing the work for about 30 plus years. The money to combat this virus, quote unquote, has been large and then some. And yet there's been absolutely no progress, really, when it comes to making individuals HIV negative. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times individuals have recognized coming into this work that it's become less about making sure that individuals are HIV negative and more about making sure that individuals who are HIV positive don't are treated well and not disrespected, which is absolutely important, but it does nothing in order to curb the transmission rates in our particular community. So we have, if in anyone can stop me if I'm wrong, but when we think about when HIV first became known to the public, uh, it was not marketed in Black communities at all, like far as awareness campaign or anything. Uh, Black people were thinking that individuals who were in white communities were the only ones dying, and Black people was like, "Woof." Thank God it ain't me. And I probably would have reacted the same way if I was around during that time. However,
Because in the very very early
mhm,
days of it, that's how it did start with I guess you could say so-called affluent white gay men who travel, and then
mhm,
it slowly trickled, from that community on out, and it's it's purely because of the racism and the oppression in this country that disease turned into a black disease.
mhm. And so years later, decades later, white people who were the poster child for this particular virus at one point have absolutely reduced their transmission rates without the need of use of things like PrEP, which is a prevention drug. We've mentioned it, but I don't think we've stated exactly what it is. PrEP is a prevention drug that is marketed. This is the one that's truly marketed to Black communities now, where you are encouraged to take this pill every day of your life in order to build up an immunity, if you will, to the HIV virus. Essentially, it builds up a protective barrier or layer around your cells. You're going to.
Let's okay. So you're not expected to take it every single day of your life.
Yes, you
It
are.
is recommended that you take it every day,
Yes,
in order to keep
you are
the
expected to
so-called
take it every day.
immunity. You can stop taking it, and you can get back on it. There are side effects, and there are also unknown side effects as a result of getting off of it and getting back on it.
The
And
most known is having to do with liver complications with your liver
yeah,
sometimes.
as well as bone density. And there's also there's different levels of I guess of efficacy, or different levels of effectiveness, for in layman terms, for different parts of the body, and even as well as even different genders. The medicine responds supposedly different from men to women,
Yes.
and depending on what type of activity you're even engaged in. So that's something to understand. But what concerns me with all of this, and this is what has always concerned me, Duke, with the U
Don't
equals
tell us.
U
Mm-hmm.
as well as the PrEP, is that as opposed to us, tackling the disease at, for what it is, what it things certain things are being normalized for us, such as just being HIV positive is being normalized, by just kind of making it feel like it's just this walk in the park for people, as well as being on medication, or being, subject to like the pharmaceutical industrial complex, which is what, like you kind of put it, for the rest of your life. But hey, I mean, if you want that protection that it supposedly provides, then yeah, you need to be on. As long as you want that protection, then you're gonna have to take that pill.
Yeah.
I've heard physicians say, and they say off the record, because nobody wants to be quoted by saying this. They'll say that you can skip a day, but they'll say that you can just, like, take it, for after, like, maybe after you've taken it for a couple weeks, you can stop taking it and then take it again for a couple days, and then you have the same level of effectiveness. I've heard physicians and all types of people say this to me, but they won't go on record as saying it, because they'll
And
say that.
another thing they know about that particular, I haven't heard that particularly, but I do know that individuals who start and stop PrEP are the individuals that they say are most likely to experience the side effects, the non-fatal side effects for longer periods of time, such as the headaches and the diarrhea, and other complications with health just in general, but and nausea as well. So those individuals who start and stop after the 2 week period. If you're starting and stopping, I'm sorry, during that 2 week period, then your 2 week period, quote unquote, lasts longer. So that is the PrEP virus. So we have PrEP on this side in order to make it where individuals who are HIV, PrEP is marketed for individuals who are HIV negative. Individuals who are HIV negative but engaging with sexual activity with different partners, whether protected or unprotected, are heavily encouraged to take PrEP in order to specifically limit transmission rates for HIV.
But see, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that recommendation for people who are having protective sex. I,
Well, It's
You,
just it's,
you
yes.
don't.
I mean, but this is what is the marketing. I'm just saying what the marketing
I
is,
know. I'm
but
just saying. I don't
like,
agree.
I
I don't
don't
agree.
have a bone to pick there, brother. But the
But go ahead.
marketing stands. But yeah, but in addition to that, and another reason why this is important is because when it comes to PrEP, there have been individuals who think that PrEP is like this end all be all situation. So since it protects against HIV, they're not thinking about the other viruses or STDs that can occur during sex. And there has been increasing rates of chlamydia transmission in our communities as well. And that is not the topic of this conversation, but it is something to consider. Just know that if you are going to take PrEP, you still need to be engaged with protection when it comes to things like chlamydia or any other STD that is transmitted. Um, because I'm reading comments from Bagani. I'm sorry. It says that because the commercial says that PrEP and have protected sex. So what is
It's
really
take
preventing
prep and
transmission?
half protected. Yeah.
Right. So exactly, Bongani. The reason why PrEP is still encouraged to have protected sex with is again because having protected sex is to reduce transmission with other viruses that happen during sex. Like HIV is not the only thing. Uh, Holmes is funny. I know you're lying. I know you're being funny, Holmes. That's how funny Holmes for today. If Adam could put that up. But yes, there's absolutely other things to be concerned about. OMG, there's more. Uh no Noha, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to pronounce your last name. I'm Obalata says that then if you're protecting yourself, then why would you need PrEP? And I think that takes into account various different questions that for the individual. One is what measures of protection are you talking about? And if you're talking about condom usage specifically, we know that condoms do reduce HIV transmission rates by a great deal. It's in the 90% tile. However, it is not quote unquote 100%. And
Only
PrEP is
because of
yeah.
structural. Only
Mhm,
because of structural. Integrity. If it breaks, that's
mhm,
the only thing. And if used properly, it shouldn't. I'm of the same mindset. Noah,
yeah.
Abalata.
Yeah, and I think it also is a question of the individual, like what does protection mean to you? Because for other individuals, PrEP is considered just a further enhancement or further plan for that protection. They don't see it as an outside factor. So this has been something that some individuals consider. Uh, Bogani said the same reason why Biden wants to vaccinate blacks. I think that's everyone's agenda at this particular point. We've heard various different quote unquote medical professionals talking about who should be the first communities to get the vaccine and where they should test it at. We've heard Africa being nominated, various countries in Africa, specifically quote unquote the poor parts. And we've also heard black communities in America be nominated for this particular test drive of these vaccines. Um,
Which is interesting, especially considering the news that we got about the vaccine, some vaccines possibly increasing, transmission. That's
yeah. So, and this is news. This is new news. And if individuals are interested in that, that was posted in Forbes magazine this week, just before our holiday, our holiday.
yeah. We didn't get that out of
Yeah,
like,
like that.
what's
Yeah,
the
that was posted
what's
in
the
Forbes
crazy
magazine this week on,
media?
I believe, Tuesday. I believe it was. That is something that's completely new. It deserves even more study and close examination for. But we've mentioned how the CDC and various different engagements in order to quote unquote curb HIV in Black communities, specifically LGBT communities, has been largely unsuccessful for going on 40 years now. And this is an industry that is multi-billions run. It has so much money. It has so much quote unquote investment, and yet there has been little to no success when it comes to specifically Black men. And the question in some of these communities has been, well, what is wrong with Black men, quote unquote? Like, if these processes have worked for Black women, if this process has worked for white men and white women, then what is the issue when it comes to Black men? And
Well,
we've
also,
mentioned
I wouldn't
recently,
be
but
so
not
quick to put Black women in
titled
that
it.
category.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they are in that same category that have of people who have had like high numbers and then brought them down, like especially with white MSM.
I'm aware of two spikes in the HIV epidemic when it came to Black women, and both of those spikes have reduced. I do believe at this point in time it's on the climb again. But the difference is that from what I've understand and seen, there's been large pushes and representation and large pushes for Black women to be at the forefront of those particular conversations and realizing how to navigate and dialogue about those communities and make sure that their community is well taken care of. Things again, like even when there was hysteria among their girlfriends was largely popular specifically in Black women communities, and their entire they dedicated about 3 episodes to HIV specifically. Dealing with Black women. Didn't even mention HIV in the Black men communities. And so when we look at large scale investment and encouragement for Black communities, Black men have been missing from that. Even when you look at the dialogue now, as far as who's leading the conversation on how to quote unquote protect Black men, and it's white men leading this conversation. And it does not look or feel good, especially when we know the long-standing history of racism when it comes to the medical facilities, the experimentation, which we're all scared about at this point, especially with the vaccines on the rise, um, and just dealing with the everyday struggles of trying to navigate a system that is not it does not care about your actual health, especially if you don't have money. I had saw a comment that had asked, "Does insurance cover PrEP?" And the answer to that is some of them do, and there's been more of a push for pretty much all of them to cover PrEP at this point. It is very expensive, however, without insurance. This is definitely something to keep in mind. But going with that, there's been largely little to no campaign to deal with actually promoting an HIV negative individual, a Black man who is HIV negative, who isn't sexually engaged, as like the quote unquote mascot to engage or dialogue with the community about how to navigate this sexual lifestyle and not contract the virus. And there's numerous Black men who do not have the HIV virus, who are sexually active engaged, but they are not given a platform. Instead, the Center for Disease Control and various other medical facilities have decided that their best way of preventing HIV transmission, which has not worked, is to promote uh, individuals who are HIV positive as like the scare tactic, as like a scarecrow in order to prevent HIV transmissions in the Black community. And all that has done, from my understanding, this is where we get to that stigma part, is create a stigma in the community, but not address transmission rates at all. And the
Well, they in
stigma,
a lot of ways they went from using the whole scare tactic to now it's like the flip to where it's like the whole normalization of of being positive that is happening in a lot, and we really do have to find the balance between affirming our people, right, and healing our people, who are positive, as well as keeping things in perspective and understanding and promoting the idea that this is not our optimal, right? This is not where we want to be. The goal is to for Black people to be negative and to be healthy and whole. Now, another thing that is happening too, Duke, in addition to the narrative often being wrapped up in individuals who are positive, the narrative is often wrapped up in LGBTQ
absolutely.
paradigm, iconography, ideology, to the point to where people just they see harm reduction and HIV prevention as things that are just inherently for people who identify and align with gay or LGBTQ.
And that's important because this is another reason why it misses so many in our community because it's marketed specifically for a niche group. when the community is so large. We've talked about numerous times how there's various people who engage in different types of sexual behaviors who do not identify as LGBTQ specifically. And so when all of the marketing is done specifically in a rainbow package, specifically with individuals that people have not grown accustomed to seeing, when we see super effeminate or cross-dressing, or even our trans brothers and sisters, it is not the narrative that individuals have fully accepted into their life, nor do they have to. And that is why that messaging, the prevention, the healthcare, the access has been missing in our community for quite some time, because all of that messaging does nothing, absolutely nothing for recently released brothers and sisters who come from the prison industrial complex who engage in various different sexual behaviors. It does nothing.
I've seen ads with two brothers riding on a double bicycle holding red balloons. And I'm just like, well, what black people do that? What are we
It does nothing
who sent
for
you?
it does nothing for our poor brothers and sisters who are dealing with homelessness and engaging with survival sex. It does nothing for individuals who don't subscribe to a particular sexual identity, again, but are engaging in various different types of sexual behaviors, whether for pleasure or simply for navigation to get through. So there is just something that the CDC has been slow. I won't say they've been 100% reluctant to do, but they've been 100% slow to engage with the various types and demographics of our community. I'm reading some of the comments here. It says that Holmes said that they remember when they did sexual risk reduction plans with folks meeting someone who recently contracted it. He said that he felt relief as if he knew it would happen regardless anyways. I'm so glad you brought that up. Reading your next comment, says that I know it was because he felt so much pressure because of CDC marketing and such. And that is another big component, especially in LGBTQ circles, because there's this attrition. Like the moment you see how we're getting tired of COVID messaging now, you got to think about 30 to 40 years of messaging specifically marketed to Black brothers, usually from the ages of 16 all the way up to, I want to say, at least 40s to their late 40s. Because if you've been receiving that messaging for that long, you just be like, all right, forget it. Like, I've worked with individuals who felt that it was just going to happen anyway, which is what Holmes was going to, it was inevitable. That's the word I was looking for. I've worked with individuals who felt that getting HIV was inevitable, which it absolutely does not have to be and is not. But when we deal with communities that are not us, quote unquote, in charge of our care, and we're not invested in our care enough in ourselves because of the things that we've talked about previously, this is what we're left with.
Bongani said a while back that Dr. Sebi cured HIV and AIDS.
I'm gonna
And
let you speak on
we
that.
should go into that next week with Melanated Solutions Media, because we're going to be doing a show on conspiracy or so-called conspiracy theories, and not calling that a conspiracy theory at all. Dr. Sebi was taken to court. I know all about that story, brother. However, it's treated as one. And it's often Dr. Sebi and his work is often delegitimized and minimized, shamefully by Black people, unfortunately. But that is definitely something that we are going to have to start not just exploring. We're going to have to start taking a command over natural and holistic health. The stuff they're making these medicines out of is plants. They are synthesizing plant compounds.
I think it does us a disservice to ignore the topic when it comes up. So I look forward to engaging it in Melanated Solutions next week. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting. But right, but it's definitely a topic that I typically avoid. But I know that it does us a disservice. Reacting to Holmes' comment section down here. Um, we're looking at a situation in the Black community where HIV/AIDS has devastated our community in multiple ways. We're talking about not only when it comes to healthcare, but we're talking about how gentrification has worked in our communities, because that has absolutely been a part of it. When we look at there's an amazing documentary called Flag Wars, that talks about when white gays decided that they were going to move into predominantly black neighborhoods and black communities, and just take it over. And this was black folks who were engaging in civil protests, who were engaging in the civil rights movement at the time, Black Panther parties, and everything. And HIV/AIDS has been one of these things where individuals who were positive or dealing with these particular conundrums or health uh, health adversities were left out of a lot of conversations. They were left out of the pot. They were left out of the ability to build money and build wealth for themselves going forward. Um, I would love to open the chat soon. We're sitting at 40 minutes. So if you see the comment section, if you would like to join in on this particular discussion, the comments are live and the link is live in the comment section. It's showed on the screen right now. We would love to hear from some of you. If you decide to join us, do know that we are going to ask you to share your thoughts. We do have a time to adhere to, and so we would love for you to just make your comment, and we'll, dialogue and feedback. But we will have to escort you out lovingly and peacefully at the end.
And try not to be walking to the store and paying for stuff in the checkout line and all that while you're on live.
I believe we have some messaging. I believe we had some messaging, promotional material or something. Adam, if you could put that up with our, I think it was something from our brother. What is his name? Looking.
Jay Ellis.
Jay Ellis. Believe we had some things from Jay Ellis. There we go. The "I'm Doing It" campaign. This took a lot of work in order to get a black person on the cover that black people would actually respond to. But he says that we need to throw away the stigma and fear about HIV testing. It's time we make HIV testing a part of our health routine. This was important. Part of this conversation is important to me. Thank you, Adam. Is because I had a friend, lady poet, who passed away due to HIV complications. And throughout her life, she had got a lot of the same stigma things that, people were used to saying. It's like, if you got HIV, it was like, oh, you must have been, messing around, hoeing around, or you was, being frivolous with your health. And what was unique about her story is that she was born with HIV. She was born with it due to complications that her mother was having. And her mother, to my knowledge, did not get it from sexual endeavors either. It was actually through drug usage and substance abuse. And so when we talk about HIV, we have to look at a more holistic form of, it's not just our sexual health that we're engaging with. We're also looking at individuals who are sharing needles or engaging in other kinds of narcotics that are getting this virus. And unfortunately, due to the way that the virus works, transmitting and birthing individuals and birthing communities with this particular virus. And so it's just something to keep in mind when we talk about the stigma. I had said U equals U is about addressing the stigma in our community, because I feel like if more individuals, I think about how powerful that messaging could have been decades ago if individuals knew that you could be HIV positive and absolutely not infect other people. And that is just something that was missing from our dialogue, because a lot of times in our community, from what I was aware of, I don't know if you have a different story, but I was born in 92. It was just like, if you got HIV, if you had HIV, that was it. That was your life story. Nobody wanted to talk to you. Love interest was done. There was no engagement with you. Again, people would be afraid to be near you, share toilet seats. Like, it was a lot going on that did absolutely nothing to reduce transmission rates, but everything to alienate Black communities, and by side effect actually promote the spreading of the virus, because individuals were so tired of feeling like a sickness that they were doing things that would complicate the health of other individuals out of their own trauma.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, well, one, Noah Abalata said we are seeing increasing new HIV diagnosis among our youth engaging in survival transactional sex. How do we best intervene? I'm going to say, Noah, the best way for us to intervene is for Black people to start practicing collective economics and to work towards a Black economic agenda, a Black political agenda. That's a Melanated Solutions Media topic. But what you're
Mhm.
talking about is purely economic and social, which is impacting those numbers. But we got Brother Bungani with us. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing well. How are
Welcome
you
back.
guys?
Doing
Hello,
good.
hello.
Doing good.
It looks like there's a little bit of lag on my end. I'm not sure what that's necessarily about.
I don't know. Things look
I
good
don't
on
know.
that.
You look good on ours.
Everything
Yep.
is okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great. So what I wanted to talk about is it's important to understand, particularly the diagnostics of diseases like HIV, because when we send our blood samples off, we are trusting we are trusting a systemically racist society, to say, hey, we're going to be honest with you and tell you what is really good. And an example of that is there was a doctor in Michigan that was targeting low income black neighborhoods, and he
Mm,
was diagnosing people with cancer, subsequently treating them as cancer patients, even though they never had cancer. So my point is, how do we know that they're not doing that with HIV? Do we really trust these same people that throughout history, since their colonization of Africa and subsequent enslavement, have done nothing but hurt us and kill us at every angle? Do we really trust that? And how do we know? Do we do our own blood sampling? Do we know really that we have HIV, or are we trusting some lab corporation to say, you have HIV, now you need to get medicine? Because, brothers, I want to tell you something, and sisters, I'm sorry, I don't mean to disclude anybody else in the audience. Um, our melanin is a cure all for everything. And Dr. Sebi knew that. Dr. Sebi promoted an alkaloid diet. And when we are alkaloid in nature, in our melanin is optimized, we cannot get sick. Let me tell you something. Our ancestors, they don't know what HIV is. How come?
So I heard a lot of things in your particular dialogue, but I think the most important thing that I would say is that uh, the fear is natural. When we look at a system that has been invested in experimentation as well as a lot of hoopla around our health, because it's some of it has been fictional as far as the things and complications that we deal with. However, if you do subscribe to the studies of Dr. Sebi, then he also knew that HIV was a real thing, and it was something that he was invested in curing, invested in protecting his community against. And I think the overall thing that we would need to be more inclined to do, even when it comes to this new thing with COVID, is we need to be looking at a more worldistic view on how people are dealing with particular viruses as opposed to an American view. And what I mean by that is that for generations, and it's the only thing that we've known, we have relied on American medical systems in order to tell us what is going on with our bodies.
Right.
Now, to America's credit, now be very clear, and this is, y'all can deny it or whatever else. America is considered, quote unquote, one of the leading medical industries, and I know that the reason why that is considered is because it's capitalistic based. Capitalism drives competition, and competition drives, quote unquote, new studies and new adventures on how to cure people, quote unquote. However, that does not mean that the other medical systems worldwide have been completely, quote unquote, defunct and invalid. What I think is the solution for our people is looking at what is everyone doing and figuring out what makes what makes the most sense for us. I also saw a comment that Kashan had responded to for the survival sex, which you mentioned the economics, but I also want to point something a little bit more tactical and practical. If you are not able to take in an individual on your own in order to help protect against survival sex, then support institutions that do. Support Black institutions that are engaging with protecting individuals, getting them off the street and whatnot else. Like you can set up a monthly donation, whether it be $1 or whatever else, it'd be $1 more than what they were getting in the first place. So it's just something that we can start doing, and this is still that conversation of collective economics, engaging in our in our own health practices, starting funds in our own communities in order to go to the research and study of what is happening with our bodies. And why is it that so often when we go into white institutions, whether it be for HIV, COVID, and Black women when it comes to pregnancy, so many of us are the ones dying out as opposed to other communities. And so it's just something that we need to be critical of, absolutely. But I believe the solutions is being more active and engaged with the health as opposed to being so afraid of what they may be doing that we just become disinterested in what's happening.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
before we
I wouldn't suggest that, but I would say that we need to be aware that just because they are saying that, it doesn't mean that it's true.
Mm-hmm.
and
You you know what I mean?
before we let you go, Bangani, I also wanted to agree as far as bring up the whole self-determination component when it comes to testing, when it comes to lab work. That's a lot of things that we need to be in control of. I remember I was part of the Uhuru movement some years ago, and they had a nurse that that ran a testing program that they did for the community. You know what I'm saying? That's like a step towards controlling our own medical sciences and controlling our own diagnostic services and treatment. But as always, we do appreciate you coming on, brother. You add so much
No
to the
doubt.
discussion,
And we
man.
hope to see you for Melanated Solutions next week when we talk about
Yeah,
Dr. ZB.
Of
So
please make
course,
sure you come
of
on next week as
course.
well.
Y'all already know. You guys be well, okay? All right, bye everybody.
speaking
Black
speaking
power.
of Black Power. Speaking of collective economics, Adam. Well, no, Adam may have a link, not an image, but may have a link. But Giving Tuesday is coming up, you all, and if you are invested or in support of the work that we do here, there is a known thing that people do in the communities for various different institutions or organizations. If you have anything that you would love to just supply a gift of any seed, Giving Tuesday is December 2nd, and we will take gifts before, during, and after Giving Tuesday. But we would love if you all could support or send to someone who you know would be willing to support the endeavors here on BMX Health Streams as well as Melanie Solutions Media. So, anyone else want to join in? Anyone else have any thoughts? I'm more curious now that you all
Also,
know
for
about.
Giving Tuesday, I'm gonna drop that cash out,
That's
man.
right,
No,
December 1st.
no, I was kidding. I was talking about Giving Tuesday. I said I'm gonna drop that cash app as well for y'all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, donate to the organization first if you can, but first if you can. But it'd be really, really great. If anyone else would love to join, I saw individuals say that they had never heard of U equals U before. I'm just curious if anyone wants to join in and just discuss what the now knowing what U equals U mean. What do they think they can do with that as information for their communities, or do they think that that messaging is quote unquote powerful enough to start changing the trajectory of our communities? Because for so long, individuals just thought that if you had HIV, it was a done deal, and there was nothing else you could do other than prolong your life.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I, I mean, I'm glad that we explored the concept behind U equals U. I think the most important thing that or the most important thing that can impact our community is the phrase "you matter." You know what I'm saying? I mean, U equals U, but U equals beauty. U equals worthiness. Blackness is worth protecting and preserving, and I think that's the heart of a lot of the issue, even when it comes to the economic piece. You know,
Yeah. I want to highlight, just because it's in the comment section, we'd be fools to miss it. You can donate to Black Men's Exchange, which is a nonprofit, meaning that you can also write this off on your taxes. So if you have any issues and you want to, load off some funds real quick and not have the government take it from you, you can give it to us and have that claimed on your taxes. So, Yeah, Home said you matter is so good. We may have to just add that into our campaign of Black men having options.
Uh-oh,
Uh,
let me patent it first. Gotta, gotta get
so,
my coins too.
not naming other things that mention matter. It definitely is a good time to play with that particular word, and also take ownership of it as opposed to asking other individuals to make sure that we matter. I think this is, well, if no one has anything to say, I'm checking more comment sections. All right. If no one has anything else to say, I think we are coming towards the end of this particular live stream. We hope everyone had a great Turkey Day. If you happen to celebrate, and if you don't celebrate, I hope you had a good meal regardless, and engage with your family through Zoom or social distance as much as possible. Uh, and when you were with friends and fam, you did it in a safe way. But me and Kashama are getting ready to prepare to log on out. Uh, Again, this has been a BMX National Health Education live stream. It was great talking to you all. This is Duke signing out.